Chapter 1. The Builders and the Leeches. Once upon a time, in a city that smelled of rain and fresh asphalt, there lived a family, a husband, a wife, and their little boy. They had nothing but ambition and each other, and for a while that was enough. Her name was Margaret, but everyone called her Madge. She was the kind of woman who broke her nails but never broke a promise. He was Daniel, quiet, solid, with hands that knew more about building than any architect ever would. Together, they built an empire, literally, brick by brick, from the foundation up. They started with a beat-up truck, 2 hammers, and a mountain of courage. Madge kept the books on napkins while nursing their son Ethan in the passenger seat. Daniel slept 4 hours a night, but his eyes never lost their fire. They built houses for other people, dreaming of their own, but the money didn't go to a dream house. It went back into the business. New excavators, a real crew, a reputation. By year 7, they were kings of the suburbs. Cooper and Hartwell Construction was a name that made competitors grind their teeth. And when you're rich, you don't just attract friends, you attract the hungry. The first call came from Marcus, Madge's older brother. He had always been a genius that the world just didn't understand. "Madge, listen to me," he said, his voice honeyed and desperate. "Landscaping, 15 grand for equipment. People love green grass. It's guaranteed money." Daniel frowned, but Madge wrote the check. Because family. 6 months later, Marcus had sold the mowers and opened a bar. 3 months after that, the bar was bankrupt. The money evaporated like rain on hot asphalt. Then came Vanessa, the younger sister who believed she was a fashion guru. A boutique in the trendy part of town, $20,000 for rent and Rex. Daniel, Madge said, "We're not a printing press," his jaw tight. "She's my sister. She'll pay it back." She didn't. The boutique lasted 8 months. Vanessa blamed the economy, the weather, and women not wearing green this season. Every relative pulled at the blanket. Jerome wanted a food truck. Anthony wanted a recording studio even though he couldn't carry a tune. Even the parents asked for medical bills that somehow turned into a new kitchen. Over 5 years, they had given Madge's family over $200,000. 0 returns, 0 gratitude. Just resentment when the money stopped. And one evening, Daniel said, "Enough." Marcus called again, this time a car detailing business, $25,000. Daniel grabbed the phone. "No, Marcus, we're done funding your hobbies. We have a son. We have a college fund. We're not throwing good money after bad anymore." For the first time, Madge saw the true face of her family. Marcus screamed. He called Daniel a greedy bastard who had stolen their sister. Their mother sobbed on the phone about how her own daughter had been brainwashed. Madge cried that night, but not because Daniel was cruel, because deep down, she knew he was right. 2 weeks later, Daniel was driving home from a job site. Rain-slick roads, a truck ran a red light. The impact was on the driver's side. Daniel died at the scene. He was 36 years old. The funeral. Flowers everywhere. People in black. And her family, first in line to the casket. They hugged Madge, they cried, they kissed Ethan on the head. They swore they would never leave her side. They were so kind. It looked almost unnatural. Madge received $500,000 in life insurance and a business now worth $2 million. She was a wealthy widow with a 9-year-old son and relatives who had suddenly become her security detail. Chapter 2. The Widow's Web. A year later, Madge met Richard. He was a lawyer, polished, polite. His eyes promised safety. "You're too young to bury yourself in black, Madge," he said, and his voice was warm butter. They dated for 6 months. Madge's family was genuinely happy for her. They invited Richard to dinner, shook his hand, called him brother. Ethan hated Richard. The boy was 14 and missed his father, but teenagers don't get a vote. The wedding was small, the honeymoon was passionate, and 2 months later, Richard fell down the stairs of his own law office. just 3 steps, but his neck snapped as cleanly as if it had been a guillotine. Accidental death. The investigation said wet floor, no foul play. Madge was in black again. More flowers, more tears from her relatives, and another insurance payout, another $500,000. Husband number 3 was Marco, an Italian wine importer with a silver tongue and a taste for expensive suits. He appeared at a charity gala 6 months after Richard's funeral. Madge wasn't looking for love, but Marco was persistent. He charmed Ethan with stories of Rome. He charmed Madge with late-night phone calls and bottles of Barolo. Her family adored him. Marcus went fishing with Marco. Vanessa asked for investment advice, which really meant more money. Marco, eager to please, wrote a check for $10,000 to Vanessa. That money, of course, vanished like rain on hot asphalt. They married in the spring. By autumn, Marco was dead. A boating accident, a quiet lake, no witnesses. Marco's body was found tangled in the weeds 3 days later. The autopsy said drowning. The police said he must have hit his head and fallen overboard. But the boat had no damage, and Marco was a champion swimmer in college. Madge inherited his wine business, his townhouse, and another $1 million. The whisper started then, quiet at first, from the neighbors, from Daniel's old friends. 3 husbands, they said. 3 husbands in 4 years. They didn't say the name to her face, but she heard it anyway. Black Widow. Husband number 4 was Thomas, a contractor, just like Daniel, big, burly, with laugh lines around his eyes. He knew her history. Everyone did by then. But Thomas was a practical man. My ex-wife said I was too boring to die, he joked. I think I'm safe. Madge laughed for the first time in years. Thomas was different. He didn't want her money. He had his own. He wanted to protect her. He wanted to be a father to Ethan, who was now 15, brilliant, quiet, and deeply suspicious of every man who approached her. Thomas and Madge built a new ex together on a hill with a view. It felt like a new beginning. But the pattern held. 7 months into the marriage, Thomas was working late on a renovation project. An old building, faulty wiring. The fire department said it was an accident, a spark in the wall. Thomas died of smoke inhalation before the firefighters ever arrived. Accidental death again. Madge inherited Thomas's construction company. She merged it with Daniel's old business. She was now worth nearly $5 million, and she was alone again. Chapter 3. The Sun Rises. Ethan was 15 years old when he started to see the cracks. He wasn't like other kids. While his classmates were playing video games, Ethan was taking apart computers and putting them back together. He taught himself coding at 12. By 14, he could build a server from spare parts. By 15, he had hacked into the school's grading system just to prove he could, and then fixed their security for free. But his real passion wasn't technology. It was truth. After Thomas died, Madge watched her mother retreat into a fog of grief, and she watched her family move in like vultures. Marcus was suddenly managing the household finances. Vanessa had moved into the guest house to help with cooking. Jerome was driving Madge's new car. Anthony was overseeing security, which meant he sat on the porch, drinking beer and watching the street. We were everywhere, and they were always talking about money. Madge, you need to invest this wisely. Madge, you should let Marcus handle the accounts. Madge, you're not thinking clearly. You're grieving. Let us help. Ethan watched, and he listened, and he started to remember things. He remembered the night his father died. October, rainy. The truck that hit Daniel was never found. The police said it was a hit and run. They said it was probably a drunk driver. But Ethan remembered something else. He remembered Uncle Marcus asking his dad about a new route home just days before the accident, casually, like it was nothing. He remembered Richard's fall. Richard wasn't clumsy. Richard was a lawyer. He knew how to walk in dress shoes on marble floors. But the police report said wet surface. Ethan found the report in his mother's files. The photo showed a dry floor. No water, no spill, just stairs. He remembered Marco's boat.
A rental log showed that someone else had taken the boat out the day before Marco died, someone who paid in cash, someone who signed a name that was barely legible. And he remembered Thomas's fire, the faulty wiring, but Thomas was a contractor. He would never work on a building with bad wiring. He checked those things. It was his rule. Ethan didn't say anything to his mother yet. She was too fragile, too trusting, too desperate to believe that her family, her blood, could do something so monstrous. So he did what any 15-year-old with a laptop and a vendetta would do. He started digging. He installed keyloggers on the family computers. He set up hidden cameras in the living room. He traced phone records, bank transfers, and email metadata. He built a digital map of every relative's movement over the past 5 years, and the picture that emerged was terrifying. Marcus had a secret bank account. Money flowed into it after every death. Not from Madge, but from somewhere else, an offshore cell company.